Hi everyone, this is Kiara. I'm making this video for two reasons. One is to tell you that I moved back to St. Louis, and the other is to give you a review of 2020 for me personally. As I go through this video, I'm going to explain why I moved back, why I left, if you haven't been following me or anything, and I'm going to try to make it as short as possible because I'm just really, really tired. So, 2020 began with a funeral. My dad died on Christmas 2019, and we had his funeral January 3rd in St. Louis. So, it was a really nice funeral. I got to see my dad's entire side of the family that I hadn't seen in years. And so I reconnected with my aunts, and it was really cool. So around that time, I don't know if I had a job or not. The first parts of 2020 are literally just a blur to me as far as jobs were going. But I was still working on my manuscript because my goal was to publish a book about Emmett Till, which I did later in the year, in July. So I was working. I was trying to get on my health thing. I was working in a cafe, and I'm not a food person. I'm not a barista person. So it was very out of my element. But the cafe was owned by a nice black lady, and I love supporting black owned businesses. So me and her, we still talk. We're good. But I left the cafe and I ended up working for this lawyer guy. And the lawyer, or whatever he was this 57-year-old sugar daddy, not to me, but to other people. He respected me because I'm the type of person you really can't buy me. It doesn't matter what you do, I'm not going to be bought. So he tried to buy me a Mercedes. I wouldn't take it. He tried to give me money. I wouldn't take it. I won't take money unless I work for it or unless I'm in very desperate need. So I stayed with him for a couple of months, helping him with paperwork and learning the ins and outs of just law. And his thing was he had a lot of young women around him, like 21 years old. Most of them were 21-year-olds. So I would watch this guy, and he would just be, having 21-year-old girlfriends. And he was housing 3 of them in 3 different apartments, and he had a girlfriend around his age, and it was just a hot mess. But I was making some type of money. So after that, I started working for this other person who was really into health. And I was running his office. I was running his office by myself, basically. His wife was running the office, but she couldn't just run the office and raise the children at the same time. That's really when things in 2020, besides the whole COVID thing, started getting very crazy for me. So for the first time, I was catching up on bills. I was making money 40 hours a week, making some type of money. I was able to pay my bills. I was able to start saving, and things were going pretty good. I was actually really happy. I was happy. I liked the stability. But around that time, 2 things happened. The first thing that happened was basically the guys outside of my apartment congregating, doing gun violence and stuff. Like, if you see some of my other videos, they would just be outside selling drugs, shooting, pointing guns at cars, not on anybody else's front porch, only my front porch. And so I decided to get on their good side. So I would like give them books and talk to them and different things. And they were really nice guys. They just had a bad lifestyle. They weren't evil. They just didn't have any type of direction. So it wasn't like I was afraid of them in particular. I actually liked them a lot. I was more afraid of bullets having no names and coming through my window. So it was getting kind of crazy. So around the time that was happening, there was a scandal going on at my job where my boss was like trying to flirt with me. But he was flirting in a way, or talking in a way where you couldn't detect if it was flirting or not. And he would like text me, he would like Facebook me. So I'm like, I don't know if this is friendly or if it's because I was getting paid and he was paying me well, but I felt kind of uncomfortable. And what really started the drama was he, during one conversation, he was like, mentioned divorcing his wife. And I'm like, don't divorce your wife. Like, what are you doing? So for some reason, he sent his wife. He told his wife I was texting him and that I was talking about their marriage, even though he was the one that brought up the marriage. Okay. So that they were already going through some type of marriage trouble, but I guess I was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back. Actually, that wasn't the first time I've been accused of being a homewrecker. I've been accused of being a homewrecker 3 times this year. 3 different wives accused me of like cheating with their husbands, and I've never touched their husbands, like, ever. So I felt very uncomfortable. There's a lot of pressure going on. I was like afraid because I thought me and the wife were cool. So she thought I was like, I don't know. So my boss is just basically lying on me. We had a meeting with some people, and he said, whatever you do, just don't mention anything about the flirting. Like, don't mention anything. And come to find out, he lied on me. He said I was the one that brought up the marriage. I was basically the one flirting. So I left around the time it was getting crazy because my goal was to move to Hawaii because my friend had moved there. So my friend was living off the grid with his mom and his brother and the brother's girlfriend. And I guess in his mind, he felt that I wouldn't be comfortable living off of the grid. So he got somebody that he worked with. He's like, you can live with this guy. So I'm just going to call the guy for this video the old man, even though he was 70, and 70 really isn't old. I'm just going to call him the old man for this video. So the old man was like talented black man. He said he believed in community, and my friend sent me over there to him because he felt that the living conditions would be better with the old man. So I take a 2-day train ride from St. Louis to Seattle. And it was nice because I hadn't traveled in a long, long time. It's something I always wanted to do, but I just never had enough money. I never had enough time. So for the first time, I felt very, very free that I was just traveling and starting something new. So I was really excited. My family was kind of upset at first because I didn't really tell anybody I was leaving. I just kind of left. And I gave up my apartment and all that stuff. So I go to Seattle and I stay with the old man and his daughter and the daughter's husband in Seattle because most of the old man's children were there. And they were really nice people. They were like, all the children were really nice, but like the daughter was really suspicious of me because they thought I was going to be an older woman, even though I'm only 31. They thought I was going to be in my 60s because they thought I was going to be their father's girlfriend or whatever. So I don't think the daughter liked me that much. And it came out one day when we were driving around, and she said, "What are your intentions with my father? Do you expect him to take care of you?" Like, so what are your intentions with my father? Do you expect him to take care of you? Are you like, I'm very protective of my father. Look, I understand where you're coming from, but why? Would I expect somebody to take care of me? I gave up my whole stability, my whole home to take a risk and try something new. And you want to sit here and accuse me of being a gold digger. Then she said, "What has my father told you about Hawaii?" And I'm like, that it's a nice place. I don't know. Like, he said a lot of things. She's like, "Oh, you'll see when you get there." Now, at this point, she could have like gone into detail and warned me, but I'm just like, what are you talking about? So I get there to Hawaii, and his other daughter is living there, and she was really nice. They were all really nice. Like, his children were nice. So I don't know how he turned out as crazy as he was, but whatever. So the first few weeks, the old man was pretty cool, pretty nice. But then some issues started coming up. The first issue was I had the impression the house had running water, but it had no running water at all. So I'm like, okay, whatever. He's like, "Oh, we'll have running water when I get this valve or whatever fixed." Oh, and I forgot in July I came out with my Emmett Till book, so whatever. I'm just going into the story. So I'm like, okay. So for about 2 months, I had to bathe in a bucket, just like one of those Home Depot buckets. I had to bathe in a bucket, and I really didn't mind the bathing in a bucket, but there are just other conditions that kind of made my living situation very intolerable. So the rainwater that he got for the bathing and also for the washing of the dishes came from the roof. Now, a lot of the roofs where I was, or on the island I was on, there was a lot of metal roofs. You don't want to drink water that falls off of the roof, or else you'll get rat lung. So, rat lung is basically like bird droppings on the roof, rat droppings on the roof, microscopic bugs on the roof, and it's falling into the water. So, you have to kind of treat the water so you won't get sick. Now, mind you, I was kind of paranoid just having to bathe with roof water or rainwater because I didn't have anything to clean it with. So I was very cautious and afraid like I would get some type of parasite. But I didn't realize that it coming off the roof was even worse because I thought, oh, I just won't drink it. So for 6 days, I was very ill. My stomach was bloated. It wasn't like a normal bloating. It was like, I have to show you. It wasn't like normal bloating. It was like this part, my stomach just. And for 6 days, I couldn't keep food in my body. Yet the bloating kept getting bigger. And then after the 6th day, I don't know what happened. Like it went away, and I was very, very thirsty. The old man also had termites, and he had cockroaches. He also had mold in his house. So when I slept in the bed, I would wake up in moisture. The floor felt moist, everything felt moist. Because for some reason, even though he lived in the jungle, there was carpet on the floor. There's carpet. It's like the worst thing you can possibly have in a moist environment is carpet. I had to get rid of some of my suitcases because it had mold on them. It had grown on them. So I slept on the floor in the closet on a blanket for about a month. I couldn't get used to the old man's systems of cleaning, like, because nothing was really clean. He's like, you have to boil the water and wash it this way. And I would hum while washing the dishes. And he was like, accused me of having mental illness because I would hum while I'm washing the dishes. And he's like, you need to take lithium orotate because you have a mental illness. Like, you're crazy. He would just say just really mean things. I tried not to mention anything about the Nation of Islam because he used to be in the Nation of Islam. I don't know much about the Nation of Islam, honestly, but I do know you don't want to speak bad about Elijah Muhammad at all. I know that for a fact. So I would try to avoid any documentaries or anything that brought up Elijah Muhammad because he was just like so, I don't even know. Like, let's say I was watching a documentary called Who Killed Malcolm X, and it had a black woman who was the director, a black man who was a researcher, and Malcolm X's own daughter. And they were interviewing with this woman about, or some interviewer about the documentary. So the old man comes in, sees what I'm watching. He's like, what's that? I said, oh, it's Who Killed Malcolm X. So I guess they're like trying to say it was the NOI or whatever. And he's like, she's a liar, and he's a liar, and she's a liar. And I'm like, well, that's Malcolm X's daughter. Well, she's confused, and blah, 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 and you're confused. And me and him would argue about life. He would say, there's nothing in this life to be happy about. And you'll probably end up alone, and you'll never have children, and yada, 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 and you have issues. I'm just like, what do you mean there's nothing in this life to be happy about? He's like, this life is a hell. I'm like, then what's the point of me being on this earth if I'm in a hell? Why was I created? And why is everything being provided for me on this earth if I'm living in hell? So there's always something in this life to be happy about. So our arguments just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse. I stopped humming. I've just started avoiding him, and that made him upset. He just didn't like women having any type of anything. He had a client who, she had some type of arthritis where her bones, like her feet were crooked and turned inward. And there was this man who was her neighbor who really loved her. He was in love with her, and he would help her. So the old man made fun of the client and said, why would the man date a cripple? I'm just like, So at that point, I was just kind of done. I was done bathing in bucket water. I was done feeling like I was trapped somewhere. And so I decided to just buy a plane ticket back to St. Louis. And I must have been really desperate because I'm terrified of planes. You can't drag me on a plane. I hate planes. So before I had bought the ticket, my friend was like, "Why didn't you tell us? You could have gotten an apartment with us." But I wasn't thinking. I was like, okay. I just wanted to go. Even though I loved the island, was very pretty. I still want to buy land there. But I felt like I missed something. Like I missed some type of lesson and I needed to go back to square one. Where I was, it's not like you have to, you need a car. You can't just rely on the bus. Like you need a car to get places. So essentially I was trapped in the old man's house. Because down the road there would be wild pigs, and down the other road there would be wild dogs, or dogs that didn't have their leashes on. So I can't leave the house unless you take me. Like I can't go anywhere unless you take me. My friend and his mom, or my friend's mom, helped me move out of the old man's house. I moved out when he went to go work on something, and I just left and blocked his number. Because by that time I was just over it. I was over being criticized. I was over having these horrible things being spoken over my life and hearing you argue and not be happy about anything every day of your life. I took an airplane to Seattle and I got on the airplane December 28th and arrived in Seattle December 29th. I took a bus from Seattle and took it all the way to St. Louis. So I got on and off and on and off the bus. I was going through Montana, South Dakota, everywhere just to get back home. So today is December 31st, and I literally just got back in St. Louis a couple hours ago from the bus. I am so tired. I am so overwhelmed. My mom and all my other relatives don't know I came back in town because I just don't feel like dealing with people. Like I haven't really even told anybody that knows me that I'm back in town. Only a few people know I'm back. The place where I was supposed to be staying with my friend. And on the day of the flight, why was I staying with my friend? Why? Because my friend was about to lose her apartment, which was about $500 for a 3-bedroom. I can afford $500 because my old landlord kept jacking up my rent to $570. So I could afford $500. I could literally afford her whole apartment by myself. So another reason I was coming back was to help her. And the plan was go to St. Louis, live in her apartment, help her pay bills so she can save money, teach her how to have her own apartment, all that stuff. Why this girl call me the day of my flight and say, "Oh, you can't come here because the landlord's doing renovations." Really? Okay. Certainly you knew ahead of time. Like you couldn't have just found out that day. I'm pretty sure it was a week or a month that you knew about this whole renovation thing because of damage or whatever. So now she's living, I guess, with her other neighbor. And I'm like, well, where am I supposed to stay? Because my goal was get to St. Louis, get a lift, go to her apartment, and help her and start working. But I had to ask my friends for money. My other friend booked an Airbnb, and that's where I'm at. And this is a really nice room. Like, this is the most peaceful I felt in months. Besides when I was with my friends. Because I did, even though I had a bad experience with the old man in Hawaii, I actually had a good time in Hawaii, especially spending time with my friends. So it wasn't all bad. Like, they showed me some beautiful places. I learned a lot of stuff. Like, I feel like my brain has completely changed. I feel like my art has completely changed. So there was a benefit that I got out of this experience. And also learning how to stand up for myself, because right before I left the old man's house, the day I left, that was when I faced him. Because he looked in my eye and he's like, there's nothing in this life to be happy about. And he was so mad. He kept hitting the wall with his hand. So the louder he got, the calmer I stayed. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's plenty in this life to be happy about. Just because you don't find anything happy doesn't mean that I can't find anything happy. And he got so mad he walked away. So that was my lesson of like staying calm and not being reactive. That's what I learned from that experience, was to not be reactive like that, and to speak up for myself, and to not be quick to anger, and also like appreciating the little things, like appreciating hot water, appreciating clean water, and appreciating friends that will help you, and like just being more open to new experiences. Like, I don't feel afraid of anything anymore. That's why I didn't get angry when my friend basically dropped the ball on me, saying I had nowhere to stay. Because I'm just like, okay. I literally have no response. I just know I'm going to be okay. So now I'm in this beautiful Airbnb in a peaceful community on New Year's Eve. I'm not sad. I'm just like, whoa. That's why I'm talking like this, because I'm just so tired. Like, this whole journey took a whole bunch of whatever was in me out of me. Just being on an airplane, I'm terrified of airplanes. I had a couple of panic attacks on the plane. I was so glad to be down on the ground. Actually, riding the airplane has made me grateful for all the work that goes. Actually, I'm in this grateful mood. I'm so grateful for people that work in the airlines. Like, I'm grateful for the mechanics. I'm grateful for the pilots. I'm grateful for just everyone. Because after I got off the plane, for some reason I binge watched the Flight Channel on YouTube, where they show animations of plane crashes, and I've watched about 30 of them, 30 plane crashes. And it's so funny how the smallest detail, like a screw being in the wrong socket, an engine going out, like the smallest things can cause a plane to go down. So that's why I'm grateful for people who really know how to do their job. Because, I mean, that could have been my plane. What if somebody didn't have a screw? What if the pilot wasn't doing their best that day? Like, any number of things could have happened, yet it didn't, because somebody cared about their job. So that's why even though I'm very exhausted, I'm actually in a state of gratitude, because I'm just, what I really, really wanted after that whole trip, as I said, I was on the bus from December 29th to December 31st. All I wanted was just peace. And I wanted something to make me laugh. And near the end of my trip, there was a fist fight in the bathroom, the Kansas City Greyhound. And the worker threw the man and beat him with a bat. They were wrestling. I know it's horrible, but he was kicking him. Like, that just made me laugh. I'm sorry. It was so funny. So, tomorrow, I don't know what I just know I'm going to be okay tomorrow. So, I want to wish everyone a happy new year. I will be doing a book review soon because I'm almost finished with this book about the Kabbalah, and I really like it. It's actually been helping me so far. I think that's what's keeping me calm because in that book it talks a lot about being reactionary and handling your reactions to situations. So I'll talk to you all later and have a nice day.